Hey everybody, this is A.D. Wheeler of A.D. Wheeler Photography, and I've had quite a few people ask me about this shot from the Arcanum Photo Walk in New York City in Central Park and how it was done. So I thought I would do a tutorial today on how I put this shot together. So this is the Bow Bridge at the lake in Central Park, and here off to the left is the Dakotas, and that's where John Lennon stayed and lived. So this is a really iconic area. And when we were here, quite a few people were shooting from the other side of the bridge. And generally, when I'm with a group of photographers and I see everybody doing one thing, I generally go do another. So I climbed out on this rock, which is there was about a 10-foot drop to the lake here, and I stood on this rock and took this photo. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how it was done. So on this day, excuse me, just getting over a little bit of a cold here. On this day, there was quite a few photographers here. So if we go back and look at some of these frames, now this was an HDR shot, and I did shoot 3 frames, minus 2, 0, and plus 2 EV spacing. And as you can see, there were quite a few people here on the bridge. So photographers and whatnot taking photos, and that's cool. But I wanted to get a picture of the bridge. Really, to me, it was about this building and lining it up between the two urns, and just kind of paying homage to John Lennon and what this area of the park is kind of famous for. So I really wanted to get the bridge as desolate and as empty as possible. So the way that I went about doing this was because there were people trafficking back and forth on the bridge. The goal here is to actually take enough frames to where the people move in each of the frames, so that I have space and I can layer all of these together, and wherever there might have been a person, say here, and in the next frame there is no person, I can layer them in and erase and basically put them in there. So that was my goal. I shot many frames of this. They were 3 exposures apiece, so you can see the 3 exposures here, and they were all fed into Photomatics, and each one created an HDR file, and those HDR files were then loaded into Photoshop. So let's just see here. When I finished each one of these HDR photos, I star them so that they're easy to find in the mix. So this is one of the frames here. Now I don't do any post-processing to any of this before I do the editing. I generally do all of the editing first and then do the post finally. So here's all of these frames. And I brought all of these into Photoshop. And that's a completely other tutorial on how to remove people from a scene. So I'm not really going to do that today. But all those were brought in, they were layered together, and they ended up making a final shot, which was this shot. Now, this shot also had perspective correction done. That's another tutorial, of course. You can see the before and after. So you have this, and then I used the tools in Lightroom to straighten the photo and aligned everything. And Photoshop was used to remove everybody. So there you go. So now you've got us to a point where I'm going to actually start my treatment of the photo, and this is what most of the questions were about. So some of the processing was done in Lightroom, and then some of it was actually done in Photoshop. So I'll show you what was done in Lightroom. So essentially I took this photo and applied some filters to it in Lightroom, and we brought it to this point. So let's go over into the develop mode, and I can show you. What's nice about Lightroom is that it saves a history of what you did. So I'm going to bring this over here and just quickly show you that in Photoshop we got it to this point, which is just essentially just a different color variant of the way that it went out. I used On1's Perfect Effects and a few effects to kind of get this toning going on. So you can play around with yours to get it that way. And then we just did some simple adjustments, some sharpening. I added a vignette, as you can see, and then some shadow adjustments. And this just basically goes through my workflow and you can see the things over here on the left of what I did with the photo to get it to this point, and some clarity adjustments and whatnot. Brought down the clarity just a little bit so that it would give it a kind of a dreamy look. Brought down the vibrance to give it a washed out kind of look. Okay, so that basically it I really like the kind of acid wash look to some of the photos, so that's kind of what I was going for there. And then just pulled the purple luminance back a little bit, which even toned the photo, and then finally knocked the clarity down a little bit more. Okay, so here we are with this photo. So now we need to take it from that photo over to this photo. Basically, we got it toned. You can use the basic adjustments to get you there, and then take it over to Photoshop to do the final. So here we go. Just going to edit this in Photoshop. Okay, so the secret sauce over here in Photoshop is an extension called Adobe Pro Textures that I use, and you can find that at the Adobe extension website, and I will give you a link for that so that you can check it out. It's also in my textures video and texture pack that I have for sale on my website. You can also figure out or get instructions on how to install that for your Photoshop. So that's this little icon down here, a little picture of a fly down here, and if you click on that, it's got this comes standard with these, so you don't have to buy my textures to get this. This is a Russell Brown program that he put together, a script for Photoshop. It's really awesome, very creative, very intuitive, which I really like a lot. So essentially, to start out, this is going to blow your mind, but the way I started out was it's got this feature down here called Create Random Combination, and I have it set to 3 textures and randomize blend modes, and really you can just click on this and it takes these wonderful textures and it overlays them onto my photo and gives me something to go with. So here's another creation that looks really cool of this, and you can just keep clicking this button until you've gotten exactly what you want out of the photo. So I'm not digging that at all. But so essentially that's the way it started for me, was with that and getting the tones the way I want. And you can turn these off individually to find maybe the ones that you like, or you can come over here. It's a really nice feature, and you can just click on the individual ones and you can set the ones that you like, and that's essentially what I did with this photo. So I didn't use any of these random ones. I kind of did that for a while until I got close, and then I found some of these textures that I really liked a lot, and I think the final texture that I used is probably going to be the hardest one to find because you can't really see these too well. So you can add and subtract these just by clicking on them, which is really an awesome feature. There we go, right there. That's the one we want. So now you can rearrange these, and the big trick here is to find what type of layer overlay is the one that you want for your photo. So you just can scroll down through. I like soft light a lot. I use that quite a bit. I just think it has a nice light touch to the photo, but sometimes you need a little more to get the texture to pop out. So with this particular texture, I can't remember exactly what I used. Probably that right there, and then you could put it at a different level and it will have a different effect, so as you can see. So it was all in the adjustment of the levels, something you're going to want to play around with, but this will get you started. I really don't, my goal here is not to have you create a photo that looks exactly like the shot that I did, but that will get you fairly close to the photo. Once you're done with this, you can save it as a PSD and then go back and edit it, which is fine if you want to come back in and change it at all. I usually, when I'm done at that point, so I usually flatten the image and then I'll throw it back into Lightroom. Okay, so here you can see the edited photo here. Yeah, it's pretty close. So there's a few different textures, but it kind of gives you an idea. So just some simple adjustments here to finish off the photo to really give it the final touches. So there you go. Pretty close to the original there. There's a little bit of an adjustment as far as the I might have had it. There you go. All right. So there you go. That's all there is to it. And I hope you have a wonderful time with the textures and creating your own artwork. And I hope you didn't find this too long of a tutorial to wear you guys out. All right. Okay. Thanks. We'll talk to you next time.